Hello everyone, today I'll be reviewing The Thief of Baghdad. The Thief of Baghdad came out in 1924 and was directed by Raoul Walsh, and it's a silent film with Douglas Fairbanks in a lead role. So Douglas Fairbanks, he plays Ahmed, who is this thief in the city of Baghdad, and he falls in love with the princess of Baghdad. But obviously Ahmed, he's just a common thief and he needs to be a prince in order to marry the princess. He dresses up as a prince and he essentially pretends to be a prince in order to win over the princess. So the princess has to choose between Ahmed and these three other men. Originally, the princess falls in love with Ahmed immediately. However, everyone else soon discovers Ahmed is actually just a common thief and they chase him away. So the princess now has to choose between these three other men. We have the Prince of the Indies, the Prince of Persia, and the Prince of the Mongols, who is really the main sort of villain in this film. And the princess doesn't really want to choose any of these three men, so she sends them all away and says these three men have to find some treasure miles away and bring the treasure back, and whoever has the rarest treasure, the princess will choose to marry her. Now, naturally, Ahmed, although he doesn't think he can be chosen anymore, he still sets off to find some treasure anyway, and therefore he sets off on an adventure in order to find the rarest treasure in order to bring it back to the princess. Now, this was the first time that I'd seen this film. I'd heard of it before and I wanted to watch this film because I actually quite enjoy silent films, and this is supposed to be one of the greatest silent films of all time. And in fact, Douglas Fairbanks, he was an actor that I'd heard of before, but I'd never seen a film with him in. And he was in quite a lot of these action-adventure roles. In fact, before this, he did films like The Mark of Zorro, The Three Musketeers, and Robin Hood. So he was always in this lead role at this time in Hollywood. He was one of the real stars of the silent era. So going into this film, you can sort of understand why Douglas Fairbanks was chosen for this role. And I have to say, he does an excellent performance. Obviously, this being a silent film, we don't hear any of their dialogue. Just in terms of his body language, the way he acts, acrobatics and gymnastics involved are actually quite impressive in this film, because obviously being a thief, he has to jump around quite a lot, he has to escape from people, and we have some excellent scenes where he sort of climbs up some walls or he jumps across things, and all looks very impressive. And in fact, Douglas Fairbanks, he was actually 41 years old at the time of this film, and he actually looks in very good shape, so that's also impressive as well. But he really comes across as a very likeable character. You really root for this guy in this film. He's a lovable rogue type of character, and he almost paved the way for actors like Errol Flynn, who obviously later starred in a Robin Hood film as well. But really, the plot of this film, I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed the story, and if you've been listening to what I've just said, you might think that the story sounds quite a lot like Aladdin. And in fact, Aladdin took quite a lot of inspiration from this film and from this type of story. Because yes, obviously we have the thief in this Arabian city, we have the princess, and we have this evil guy as well. And yeah, this film even has a magic carpet in it as well. So yeah, it's very similar to Aladdin, and it's a really excellent fantasy adventure film. Some of my favourite scenes, most of which involve Fairbanks as Ahmed, involve when he goes off on his venture looking for this treasure. We get some really great scenes where he fights these monsters and where he has to jump over this valley of fire, and it all actually looks very good. And although this is a silent film, a lot of the shots are tinted in different colours. So for instance, with the fire section, we have a red tint, which obviously works really well, and other scenes might have a green or a blue tint, and it all depends on the location. And it is worth mentioning that this film has lots of different locations. We really jump from one location to the next, and lots of impressive set pieces. And I'd already previously seen Intolerance, which came out in 1916. And although this film isn't quite as impressive as that, this film is almost as ambitious in terms of its set pieces, and especially with the number of extras in this film. There are loads of extras in this film. We get lots of scenes with big crowds because quite a lot of the film is set inside this palace where we have loads of guards marching, and it really is amazing the amount of effort, the amount of time, and the amount of people that worked on this film really to produce this. It must have been amazing seeing this for the first time in 1924. And I can understand why it is regarded as one of the greatest classic films of all time. Now, it is worth mentioning that this film is actually quite long. It's actually 2.5 hours long, which, you know, for a silent film especially, is very long, and even for any type of film is a fairly long running time. So some people may be put off by that. But having said that, I had already seen 1916's Intolerance, which is even longer than this, and I enjoyed that film very much, so I wasn't put off too much going into this, because I know that I can enjoy a silent film even if it is really long. If I'm to be honest, having watched this, I'm going to say this is my favourite silent film that I've seen. I still haven't seen a great deal number of silent films, but I've seen a fair few now, and previously some of my favourite silent films have been The General with Buster Keaton and Intolerance, like I just mentioned. But this is my favourite, and the reason it's my favourite is because the story and the characters, and it constantly had my attention the whole time. I was rooting for this guy. I was rooting for Fairbanks as Ahmed, and it's a gorgeous looking film. The sets are marvellous, and it's just a really entertaining, old-fashioned, enjoyable film. So overall, I'm going to give The Thief of Bagdad a rating of 10 out of 10. That is how much I enjoyed it. If you don't like silent films, I would still recommend watching this, because it is really good fun, and you have to go into this film expecting an Arabian Nights adventure. That's actually the subtitle of the film. Yeah, that really gives you an idea of what to expect going into this film. It's really entertaining, old-fashioned stuff, and I would highly recommend it. So there we go. So that is my review of The Thief of Bagdad. So what do you guys think? Have you seen The Thief of Bagdad? Do you like it? Do you dislike it? Please let me know what your thoughts are down in the comment section. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you all in the next video. Take care.